Hello everyone! So back in February, I posted a reaction to the Wicked trailer, and as a kind of follow-up from that reaction video, I wanted to give my review having now seen Wicked Part 1. I feel like I'm absolutely about to burst with all of the things that I have to say about this film because I have so many things to say about it, and I really got into my like theater kid energy, and I even brought a little notebook with me so that I could write down all of my thoughts at the cinema. Like, I was in serious mode for watching this film. I put my little review cap on and I said, yes, 9 to 5, yes, clocking in, and I am ready to put pen to paper. Let me tell you. So today, we're gonna have a little bit of a chat about everything, and then I thought it might be fun after the review kind of section of this to do some sort of character ranking based on super arbitrary categories. They progressively get more and more unhinged the further that we go along. So I hope you're all excited, and if you like these kinds of videos and you like talking about music and pop culture, please feel free to hit that subscribe button and join the club. I bring out videos every 2 weeks, although this December we have plans to bring out many more videos than one every 2 weeks. So if you would like to see all the fun things that we're doing in the next month, please feel free to subscribe. I don't think I've ever done a full movie review before, like a sit down movie review. Back in the day when I used to do streaming regularly, I was doing kind of movie reacts for a little while just to test the waters and see if that content was something that I enjoyed doing. I've never done a proper like sit down review. So I've decided that I would like to break up this review into categories, and it is going to be classically the good, the bad, and the ugly. To leave us on a happy note so that the ugly is not where we leave this today. Obviously, we've got those rankings to do. So I hope that you enjoy a silly little sandwich of thoughts for you to digest today. Let's start with the good. Mamma mia, when I tell you the chills that I had at the start of this movie, just hearing the music to No One Mourns the Wicked in the beginning, the initial boom, do, 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 boom. There was chills all over my body, let me tell you. Especially having seen this very recently on stage in Melbourne, I had a real appreciation for not only kind of the way that this was all set up, but that it had a really similar feeling to me. I know it's very difficult to translate stage to screen. There are a lot of musicals that have done it successfully, and there are a lot of musicals that have not. The first thing that I noticed was the score sounded fantastic. The music staging was just fantastic. I really felt like the music as it was performed had like a high fidelity to the stage production. I felt like you were not necessarily missing out on the musical experience of the stage in this movie. Like it was captured perfectly to me. Something that was at the forefront of my mind while watching was the set design. Just before we went and saw the movie, we watched the Architectural Digest's video on the set and how they made the set, where the design inspiration was, and how they moved the cast through the space and filmed within it, how long it took, the budget that it cost to create all these elements, and what they did to conserve costs and things like that. And oh my god, it was fantastic to learn all that before going in, but then it also made me look at certain scenes, like especially in the courtyard of Shears, where I'm like, oh, that's where a doorway is, or there's nothing there, and they've added that in post. It was quite exciting. I kind of wish I watched it after because I would appreciate it a little bit more, but it was nice to watch it knowing how much of it was practical, and I think that that's a real feat because in that way it does kind of keep a timeless quality to the movie, because with it, so much of it not being CGI, in 10 years, we're only really going to be looking at the monkeys and going, hang on a minute. Like, so much of it is practical effects. And I just think that that's so marvelous. Like, what a way to make your movie timeless, really. I also really adored the principal talent, and I want to make a really big emphasis on this because it's going to come up later. But I thought that every single person who was cast as the 8 main characters were cast really, really well. That is such a huge deal, not only for the talent, but it's also a huge deal for directing, because obviously it doesn't just take the talent to make the movie. There are people pulling things in the background and making that happen. I really say all of their performances were faultless to me. Cynthia Erivo, I don't think I've seen her in anything before other than, of course, literally the trailer. I know that she did a really beautiful performance in The Color Purple, which I'm really eager to go and see now. But she really Oh my god, every single time she was on screen, I just had chills. She was absolutely fantastic. And Ariana, like, unsurprisingly, was absolutely fantastic. I think there was a little bit of a part of me that was nervous about Ariana, not because I didn't think she was talented, not because I didn't think that she could act. We know she can act. I've watched Victorious.
Tofu, well, I have a feeling we're not in the Hollywood Arts bathroom anymore.
Yeah. I've read the old texts, but more because Ariana, at least now, she's very funny, don't get me wrong, but in terms of being silly goofy, I feel like we don't see that projected to the masses very often. And Glinda is very silly goofy on stage. Now, I was a little bit nervous about how she was going to portray that, but no, she delivered like crazy. I will accept any and every overdramatic interview that they will ever give and have ever given because of the level of performance that they both gave. Yes, they are the two main characters, and yes, they are expected to carry the movie, and boy, did they deliver on carrying the story. Ariana's performance as Glinda nearly made me forget that she's not really a good person. Like, I mean, Glinda's not really a good person. Ariana Grande. I'm not even going to pretend that I know her. But Glinda is like not a good person, right? I think actually the way that they performed Defying Gravity in this movie really solidifies that she's not a good person. Outside of her being like, you know, popular and mean. But like, you know, there's a kind of charm to it. And the way that she is so charming on the screen does really make you forget that she's like ambitious to the point of sacrificing a beloved friendship, sacrificing her morals for her ambition and things like that. So that's really interesting. And Cynthia, oh my God, she really made the character her own. Holding space for the lyrics to Defying Gravity. Let's hold space for the whole of Elphaba's performance. Like, truly, she reinvented that character to me. I thought that she did such a fantastic job. Both of them ad-libbed a lot of the lines, especially having just seen the stage show. A lot of the lines are pretty fresh in my mind, and knowing what things were added or made their own. Oh my gosh, wasn't that so fantastic? I really appreciated it, and I think that my favorite part of the movie in terms of their performance was the Oz Dust Ball, where elphaba is being, you know, made fun of because she's wearing that crazy hat. Although if you look at anyone else in the room, they look ratchet. I'm gonna be honest, Elphaba's giving like monochrome slay. Like, she's eating it up. I actually don't understand why anyone thinks that she looks ugly. And when I saw that hat originally, I was like, girl, that just looks so slay. I wish that I had that hat. Would you guys all pay me out if I wore that hat? Be honest. My favorite part in that was when Glinda comes to meet Elphaba in the middle of the dance floor and does the dance with her. And they share a really tender moment where they're holding each other, and you can see both Cynthia and Ariana break character because neither of them are doing their characters like facial quirks, if you understand me. And that's kind of the beauty of it being a movie and not being on the stage, but you can see all these really close elements of their kind of more silent acting. Like on the stage, obviously you can't see their facial expressions from all the way at the back typically, and that's why they have to do them so loud and so big and over the top. But in a movie, you know, you have those tight shots, and seeing Cynthia cry because she was so overwhelmed in the scene and like really taken over by the feelings of how Elphaba would have been feeling, and seeing Ariana stop being a little like, and actually, like, you can see her facial expression change and like, oh, it's okay, like, let me care for you, it's okay. It nearly took me out. Like, I really think that the time that Ariana took off of music to focus on this project was really well spent. Like I said, this is the first thing that I saw Cynthia in, so I'm not sure what she gave up in terms of projects to focus on this project, but both of their performances were well and truly worth that time. I actually don't understand how Jonathan Bailey had the time to do this between Bridgerton and all the other things that he's been doing. That's actually crazy. But these two, they really had a job to do and they really delivered. So I was really happy about that. I think that all of the principal talent really solidified their place of being kind of the headcanon of each of those characters. Like, now when I think of Fiyero, yeah, I think of Jonathan Bailey. I will say, he in particular looked very old at the school. Not to like nitpick anything, because I still think he was fantastic casting. He is completely giving Prince vibes. And not only was he giving Prince vibes, I didn't know he could sing like that and dance like that. So That was just fantastic. But yeah, that's an older man at a college. And it is a college, yes, but as far as I understand, Fiyero is not meant to be in his 40s. So that did take me out in a few scenes. A lot of the cast is kind of a similar age, so it didn't look so crazy most of the time, I will say. I'm really excited to see how they portray these characters again in part 2, but I think that they should all be really proud of their performance because it was truly really magical. My favorite performances in this show was Dancing Through Life, The Wizard and I, What Is This Feeling, and One Short Day. One Short Day in particular had me in tears. No One Wants the Wicked, One Short Day, and Defying Gravity had me crying. So if you wanted to know at what points of the movie I was crying, there you go. The final good thing that I really want to talk about is something that didn't get revealed to me before going to see it at the cinema. Now, I watched this a week after it came out at the cinema, so I'm really surprised that I didn't see this spoiler. But I wish that you could see my face at the cinema when I saw in One Short Day, Idina Menzel and Kristen Chenoweth come out and start performing the story of how the Wizard and the Emerald City came to be. Oh my God. I turned to my partner like, and he goes, yeah. And then turns back to the screen and I'm like, oh. I was like, okay, did he not think it was as cool as I did? And then after I asked him about it and I was like, oh, so were you like not impressed like about Idina Menzel and Kristen Chenoweth? And he was like, who's that? And I was like, in One Short Day, they were the original actors on Broadway. And he's like, oh, I had no idea what you said. Thank God he wasn't disrespecting the queens. But yeah, I had no idea that they were in it. I had seen that they kept being promoted with Wicked, but I just thought that they were doing it as like a marketing thing, that they were like, you know, here we're passing the baton on to this film generation of Glinda and elphabas. It didn't occur to me that they would be honored in the movie like that. So that was really such a treat for me. I would say that the only thing that I didn't like about that, and I'd love to hear all of your opinion on it, is that I didn't really like that Idina Menzel did the war cry for Defying Gravity before Defying Gravity. And then, yeah, obviously Cynthia's is a little bit more crazy. It did kind of make it feel a little bit less special by the time it came to Cynthia doing it as elphaba, but I know why they included it. Ultimately, it's a very small criticism and it didn't detract from my experience. We're still in the good section. So I was just a little bit like, oh, like that was an interesting choice. But hearing them, seeing them play with the cast, that was just really special to me and I really, really enjoyed it. And I thought that it was a really nice thing to do, especially for all of the fans who have been following Wicked since it came out on Broadway. So just very, very special. I really enjoyed it. And especially their costumes, they were really fantastic. That's something that I didn't write that down, but I did think that the costumes were really good. All of the costumes were really taken care of. I particularly liked Glinda's Ozdust Ball dress the best because it was so vibrant and beautiful. But yeah, I thought they were all fantastic. Now let's move on to the bad. I will say, for all of the good things that I have to say about Wicked, there are two not great things that I feel like I can't go without saying so that my credibility as someone with an opinion, isn't challenged in any way. But in terms of the bad, I honestly found that the film was very distracting in one way that made it kind of a little bit aggravating, but not in a way that like I can still forgive it and enjoy the film. Like it's not a huge deal breaker, but it was really disappointing. And that was how desaturated it was. Now, I'm not the first person to say this, and it's certainly not a hot take in any capacity. I also know that John M. Chu has talked about in interviews how the reason that it is the way that it is, the color grading, is because The Wizard of Oz, the original Wizard of Oz, was filmed in Technicolor. Obviously, Technicolor, I don't believe the technology can be used anymore, so there was no way that was ever going to be filmed on Technicolor. But in terms of replicating that look, he didn't want to do that because technically The Wizard of Oz is a dream. In the beginning, it's all sepia tones and that's real life. And then when Dorothy goes to Oz, it's all her dream. It's when she's knocked out. So because of that, he wanted to create a more realistic feeling because this is, for all intents and purposes, reality. While I completely understand that line of thinking, like I understand where you got from one place to the other place, I do have to question, like, do you actually know that you've filmed a fantasy film? Hey, this isn't real life though, bro. I don't think I've ever gone and watched a fantasy film and thought, I wish this looked a little bit more real. I was a little bit taken out. You know, I think we are all grown enough to suspend our disbelief and know that, you know, hey, we can't like turn up the saturation in real life. Like that would be crazy. And also Oz is like fantastical. Everything about it is magical and crazy and the words aren't real and, you know, things like that. So why can't it look magical? Like Oz might not be real in Dorothy's reality, but in the reality of the characters that we're watching, I don't understand why it can't be fantastical too. That's how we know it. And actually, technically, if you've read the Oz books, you'll know that Dorothy doesn't just have to get bonked on the head to go there, because of course the wizard didn't get bonked on the head to go there. Actually, who knows the lore better, me or John and Chew? I think it might be me in this instance, because it's not just a dreamscape. It is in the movie, but it's not just a dreamscape. Okay, I'm gonna let it go. Another part about it being so desaturated was it meant that a lot of the definition in people's faces was completely washed out. For example, in a palette that was so pale to begin with, Ariana, you like can't see her eyebrows in some scenes because of the way the lighting is and then the color on it. So she looks like fucking Jeffree Star before she's put makeup on because there's no color to show the difference between her skin and her eyebrow. Did you guys think about that before you did it? No. So yeah, like I said, ultimately I found it distracting, but it wasn't a deal breaker to me. So if that was the only thing that was bad about it, I could completely forgive it. But it wasn't the only bad thing. And in fact, there is an ugly thing that I need to talk about that has severely detracted from my experience of this movie. So let's move into it. The one thing that I just can't find myself forgiving about this movie, I can't forgive, and I found actively distracting, and it made me angry as I was watching because I couldn't understand how this happened, and it went through how many hands and then ended up on my movie screen. At any given moment, every single scene was pretty much exclusively backlit, except for the outdoor scenes where you can't control the lighting quite so much. Like, there's only certain instances where this worked, and I would say the best use of this was in the bedroom scenes, predominantly. At the beginning of What Is This Feeling and, you know, Popular, because with all of the kind of soft backlighting, it like hits against the walls and creates a really warm tone on the face that still makes the facial expressions readable, right? But then there are instances, and particularly bad instances, like Dancing Through Life, where it is so harshly backlit, Defying Gravity at the end, where the scene with the classic pose for Elphaba with a broom and her billowing cape is changed. The shape that the iconic shape that they're trying to show is changed because the backlight is muddying up the silhouette. I'm not that girl. Like, hey, did you know that you are not filming a live stage production? It's not like Hamilton, you know, where you're on a stage and you're filming the actors on the stage. You have got your own like creative design to do here. And with lots of close-ups where you can actually see the expressions on the people's faces, you've also got some of the most talented actors and performers in the world performing in this movie, and I can't see their face. I can't see their facial expressions. I'm not that girl in particular. Elphaba is literally in the dark for a whole scene with no light on her face. You cannot see her. Cynthia Erivo got mad at someone who made a fan edit of the Wicked poster to make it look like the Wicked poster for the stage show, and she got angry about it because it covered her eyes and it said that it was erasing her. Hey, Cynthia, I would hate for you to watch the movie because I think that they erased you in the movie. I actually couldn't believe it. As I was watching, I was like, can someone edit this movie for me and turn up the saturation and add some lighting to their faces, because it is so distracting, and the lighting just, I actually can't fathom how they would have such harsh backlighting to the point where you actually can't see the silhouettes that you're meant to be looking at anymore. They're obscured because the light is so bright that it's changing the way the silhouette looks. Like, I can't fathom this. The whole point of doing a movie instead of a stage production is so that you can see those silent moments. I think I said before, the silent moments that show you so much about the character. You don't have to do such big movements. You can show so much of the emotion of the character through those little subtle moments, but you can't if you can't see them. It's like being in the nosebleeds at the theater, except the screen is in front of you and you still can't see them. I don't get it. Ultimately, yes, I'll watch this movie at least 100 times more. And yes, I would really like to see this movie at the cinema again if I can, because, oh, that was such an experience. Especially I would like to go without my notebook. And I can just sit and enjoy it and really take everything in. There were some really good Easter eggs in the movie. Like, I think particularly having Bok, when he's first shown on the screen, come out to see Glinda and like, sidestep. I'm not going to reveal part 2 for the people that haven't seen, but there are a lot of things like Easter eggs too, things that happen in part 2 that I think were just fantastic. All of those things were just fantastic, and I can't tell you how much I ache to see part 2. As much as I did love it, ultimately, I think it's really important to be critical of the things that you love. So, you know, John M. Chu, pray that I never meet you. Let's get on with the sillies. We've had our fun. Okay, let's get on with the sillies now. For these rankings, we are going to be ranking the principal cast. We are going to be ranking elphaba, Glinda, Fiyero, Bok, Nessa Rose, Madame Morrible, the Wizard, and Dr. Dillamond. They are the principal cast. Each question, like I said, will become more and more unhinged as we go along. So yeah, okay, let's go. Who is the hottest? Okay. I don't think that this is going to be too controversial. I would say that the top 3 people that I have in this list, I could put in any of these orders. We're going to go from 1st place to 8th place, and we're just going to see how we go. Okay, hottest? We have Fiyero. He is such a prince, and Prince, that is like literally, that's my type. You give Prince energy? Hey. Well, Raven Guard? Yup. Davrin from Dragon Age Veilguard? Yup. Fiyero? Yup. Okay, Prince vibes? You get me. That is my type. If I'm gonna have a type of men. Then it's Glinda. I think that's self-explanatory. She's just beautiful. The Wizard. Yes, I do have eyes. And I'm not afraid to admit that an older man is stunningly beautiful. Yup. Let's just say that me and Elphaba's mum have something in common. And that is I would leave my... Next we have Elphaba. Hey, she is green. That did take some marks off. Then Nessa Rose. Bok. Controversial. Madame Morrible. She is hot. It's just like they all, let's be completely honest, they are all hot. It's just different kind of vibes. And then lastly, Dr. Dillamond. If I'm being completely honest, I just didn't want to take the heat of admitting the hotness of a goat. So let's just say I'm weak. Who would be the best babysitter? Okay, I think this one is pretty self-explanatory. In top place, we have Elphaba. She's looked after Nessa Rose pretty much her whole life. I think that she would be definitely the most responsible person to be looking after someone. Next up is Dr. Dillamond. I feel like as a teacher, he has that innate ability to look after other people, and especially the other animals. We can see he's kind of the head of the movement of looking after his friends and things like that. Bok. Not sure what is really giving me this impression, but I just think he might be the best of the rest. He is very self-centered or maybe singular focused. That might not work in his favor, but I do feel like he is better than the rest, so yeah. Madame Morrible, again, she's a teacher. We've seen when she is getting what she wants, she's quite good at looking after someone else, although as we see throughout the movie, she is doing things to test Elphaba to get her power out, so manipulative. But I feel like there is a parentification of Madame Morrible that we could be discussing here. Next up is Glinda. Now, the only reason that she's not higher is I feel like Glinda would either do this reluctantly or for the validation of others. I don't think that she would do this on her own. She would definitely be doing other things while she's babysitting. Then we have Nessa Rose. Again, maybe this is part 2's influence, but she does not strike me as someone with any motherly instincts. Fiyero, again, I feel like he and Glinda have a similar issue where he would not be he might say yes, but he would not be there. Let's just say you've booked Fiyero for the night so you can go out on the town. It's getting to 6 o'clock. And he's nowhere to be seen. He's actually somewhere completely different. He's made plans with someone else. And then finally, The wizard. You know, the absent father thing is kind of a big one there. Who would be most likely to get you pads when you've just got your period? So first would be Glinda. I am a firm believer that Glinda would be like, don't worry about it, I'll take care of it. Like, Glinda would get you above and beyond. Like, she would get you sanitary items, she'd get you chocolate, she'd get you strawberries, like anything that might give you comfort. She would give you a movie, whatever, to get you through the time. But again, mostly in the way that she is at the start of the movie, where she is just trying to impress people with how helpful she is. That would be her main motivation. Like, it might not be for good, but she would certainly get the job done, and maybe the best. Next up would be elphaba for sure. I definitely feel like she would be a no fuss, like, yep, I've got it. Maybe not doing it so enthusiastically, but certainly a duty bound, you know, okay, I'll go get you some things. Elphaba, I would say, is getting what's necessary, but nothing extra, but doing it very well and promptly. Next up would be Bok, and I feel like he has ulterior motives. I'm doing Bok such a disservice. But hey, I mean, he's pretty high in the list, hey. Next up would be Dr. Dillamond. I feel like elphaba, he's very responsible. And I do question maybe his promptness, because I feel like he's got bigger things going on than getting you your sanitary items. But I do feel like, you know, you could probably rely on him to get it. Next up is Fiyero. I would say similar to the babysitting dilemma with Fiyero, he might take his time to get you your sanitary items. He certainly wouldn't be getting you any extras. He'd also be the person that is like at the checkout, and like if someone looks at what he's got, he's like, that's for my friend, or that's for my girlfriend, like whatever. He would be completely removing himself from the situation, like very immature. Next up would be Nessa Rose. She does not want to do this. She's like, me, of all people you asked me, that's Nessa. The wizard, again, is next. He would maybe say yes and just not do it. Or maybe he would say, like, leave it with me, so not quite committing to it, and then, well, don't leave it with him because he won't do it. And lastly is Madame Morrible. She's giving you a flat no. She's like, get someone else to do it, babes. It's not for me. Who would survive the longest if they were trapped on a desert island? Hands down, the top person for this is the wizard. I feel like he could lie his way into anything. The one thing that he has more than anything is ambition and the understanding to do what needs to be done to get what he wants. So I feel like there's a very strong chance that he will find a way to befriend something to get what he needs to get the job done. I feel like he would last the longest, for sure, by the strength of his mind. Next up would be Madame Morrible, but not for the reasons that you think. I feel like Madame Morrible, first of all, she's got weather powers, so she could make her stay very comfortable. But I also think that pure spite is fueling her ability to survive. Like, she is so spiteful that she's like, well, I'm just not gonna die. You can't beat me, island. So she's not going to die. Will she craft the island like the wizard will? No, probably not. But I do think that she'll make her stay as comfortable as she can, and she will be grumbling the whole time. Next up is elphaba. I think that she's extremely intelligent, and it's her intelligence that's keeping her alive. She's got a kind of inbuilt anxiety and an awareness that is giving her the tools to be able to perceive things that maybe others just miss from having a cush life. I feel like she's struggled enough that she could struggle in this situation and not be too put out. Next up is Dr. Dillamond for sure. I feel like he knows what to do. He just maybe hasn't put it in practice yet. I think he would be not too bad at working it out. You know, he might not last the longest, but he certainly will give it a good crack. Next up is Bok, and I think that this is from pure ignorance. He foolishly will fumble his way through life into what he needs for a time, and then that time will run out. I don't think his success with the desert island will last very long. Certainly, there will be a point of anxiety and a point of no return for him, certainly. Next up was Nessa Rose. Again, I feel like this is a spite thing similar to Madame Morrible, except the opposite, where she's like, I truly do not deserve to be here. There is only so much of this that I can put up with, and she will put herself out of her misery because she can't control this situation, so she is removing herself from the situation. Next up is Glinda. I feel like she has lost all of her creature comforts. She's looking a little bit rough. She hasn't had to rough it like this before, so she is not having a great time. I do feel like she has the wherewithal to get through a lot of things, but not having her creature comforts is really taking a toll on her, so I really don't think she'd last very long. And then finally, we have Fiyero. He is not even lasting a day, babes. He is like, don't even worry about it. I will get out of here. And he will make an attempt to leave the desert island, and he will just fail. Like, on impact, fail. He will be like, don't worry guys, I'm gonna craft a raft. Craft a raft? Okay. I'm going to make a life raft and I'm going to get us out of here. He is going to cut down a tree. Don't know how. He'll find a way. And have the leaves of the tree to try and blow his way back to land. And of course he's not made it correctly. Of course he's not made it correctly. And he's sinking. And he's a little bit too far from land to go back, and he's sunk. That's the end of Fiyero. So sad. Such a waste. Who would be best at Mario Kart? This one's only for the sillies. First is definitely Bok. I don't really know what impression gave me he would be good at Mario Kart, but I just feel like he has an innate ability to be very good at hands-on things like this on small scale. And that is not a comment about him being a munchkin. Do not get it twisted. But I feel like he's very good. I feel like he would be someone who would study the blade, as it were, and he would definitely have a favorite character and definitely a favorite loadout and definitely a favorite map. He would be like a Mario Kart pro. Like, maybe he would even get into the pro leagues. Like, that's how serious he is about Mario Kart. Second up is definitely Fiyero, and I mean that mostly because he's very competitive. I think that he would make himself be good at Mario Kart so he could try and beat Bok, but he's just not there yet. But he's trying, gets frustrated, but he's not quite there, but he's definitely better than the rest of them. Next up is Glinda. I feel like she's a wild card for this. I do feel like she has some surprise talent here, something where it's like it's even surprising to her, where she's just innately good at it but just not practiced. She definitely likes to play Biker Peach with the cloud parachute and the balloon patchwork wheels. That's definitely her loadout. She really likes the Moo Moo race. I don't remember what it's called. Moo Moo Highway? You get me. Next up is the Wizard. I feel like he can flub his way through. I feel like he is reliant on all of the bad egg moves, like, you know, blue shelling people. He's bombing everyone. He's got bananas down everywhere to make up for his mediocreness in the game, but he's still pretty competent, and I think that he is very often on the leaderboard pretty high. Next up, we have Nessa Rose. I think that it is because she can control the situation. She can obviously control her loadout. I feel like she is quite good at it, but not practiced. I feel like she is one of the people that when she picks it up, she's very serious about it, but she's not going to tell you just how much it hurts when she comes forth. Next up is Madame Morrible. She will give it a try. She is not really wanting to play with the idea of doing this. I can't imagine that she would be super good, but she would definitely be competent. She will do it if she's made to. She has to be subbed in to play. I don't think that she is rip-roaring ready to go and play Mario Kart, but she will sub in if she has to. Second to last, we have Dr. Dillamond. I think that, again, much like the tea situation at his house, I feel like he has got ways of making the controller work for him. I feel like he's got a special loadout, but he's still got to practice. He's got a lot to do. He's got a lot of other burdens to put his effort into, but when it comes to Mario Kart and all the boys want to play, yeah, you can bet Dr. Dillamond is there, happy to be there. And finally, lastly, is elphaba. She doesn't care to know and doesn't want to know about Mario Kart. I feel like she just laughs it off and thinks it is the stupidest thing, and she is going to sit and go read in a corner. She's not even going to engage with it. Maybe she even snickers at the people that are playing and says that it's silly. And then as a bonus, for the people that have stayed this long, and especially the people that know me for Taylor Swift content, I wanted to give you a little bit of something here as a thank you for sitting with me so long. Finally, what Taylor Swift song would be this character's favorite song? So it's not really a ranking, it's more just a, here's the list. I feel like the obvious answer here is elphaba would love Mad Woman the most. I feel like that's kind of a no-brainer. She definitely feels like she identifies with Mad Woman. There are a couple of other songs that I feel like fit her, but Mad Woman's certainly the best. For Glinda, I have Bejeweled. I think that this really emphasizes how she feels. I feel like, especially with Fiyero, fiyero. She wants to be at the penthouse of your heart, and yet she's not. And I do feel like, you know, yes, she is trying to make the whole place shimmer. For fiyero, I think The Way I Loved You suits this best, and I'm specifically thinking between the girls. And he is imagining the screaming and crying and kissing in the rain personality is elphaba, and the other is very obviously Glinda. Next up we have Bok. Bok's favorite song is Guilty as Sin. I'm not even gonna have anyone argue about it. What if she's written mine on my upper thigh, but only in my mind? Definitely he's a big Tortured Poets Department fan. Nessa Rose's favorite song, obviously, is Better Than Revenge. I definitely think that really sets into motion what's going to happen in part 2 with her character. For Madame Morrible, I would say her favorite song is I Did Something Bad. I would argue that the whole of the Reputation album is her favorite album and she thinks it's a masterpiece. For the Wizard, I have No Body, No Crime. I struggled a little bit to think of something for him, but I definitely think the lack of accountability in Nobody No Crime definitely fits with him. And then finally, Dr. Dillamond, his favorite song is Cornelia Street. I'll never walk Cornelia Street again. I'll never feel safe in Oz again. And that's that on that. My camera's overheating, so I'm gonna have to get out of here. I'm so sorry. Thank you all so much for hanging out with me. I've had a fantastic time talking about Wicked. I can't wait to watch it again. And I've just got to say thank you so much for hanging out with me for all this time. I really appreciate it. I hope that you're all excited for all the things that I'm bringing you in December. I've got such a jam-packed schedule. I can't wait to share it all with you. But for now, stay healthy, stay hydrated, and I will see you all next time.